what is your take on the raising of a son?
Well, first and foremost, I think it's smart for us to raise our sons with the idea that they will be men one day. These may be our little babies, but very quickly they're going to grow out of that. And they're going to be in a position of serious power on a physical level, on a mental level, on an emotional level. I would hope that we would raise them to do the very best with the power that they have. I am teaching my son personally to really stick to his own North Star of understanding a lot of the things that I'm teaching him about, masculine and feminine dynamics and how to show up in a relationship regardless of what he's getting from society or what he's getting from even individual little girls, right?
Mm-hmm.
I spend a lot of my time explaining and over-explaining situations that he finds himself in. What I've noticed, though, is that if you don't strip a child of their confidence, they're pretty good at understanding that the world is not a perfect place and that they're going to have to, anchor themselves to that North Star, regardless of what influences are, kind of hitting them and from where. Yeah, there have been more than a few circumstances where you almost see the plight of moms coming through the daughters in the age where he is right now. My son's 14, so he's coming into his hormones, and he's at that age where the difference between the girls in class versus the boys is like light years. The girls were like, Winter, if you had to get trapped on a desert island with just one of us, which one would it be? He's like, I don't know, everyone. No, just one of us. These types of games, and the boys are still like,
they don't know.
I've got legs.
It's fascinating because I have a daughter as well, and my daughter is 2, and it's like her maturity is that of my son when he was like 6 months old and she's 2.5. It's wild. But I do deeply resonate with there is this responsibility for our sons. And my husband and I, we were actually talking about it not too long ago of in the last he's 5, in the last 5 years, I can't tell you of a Pixar movie that was made for strong, healthy boys.
No, we're killing boys.
I'm like, where?
We're killing them on purpose. So we're swinging the pendulum.
This is nuts because it's crazy. I'm like, okay, there's Moana. Okay, I get it. Moana, fine. Brave, fine. But Frozen, fine. But I'm like, where in the last 5 years we have not seen with a strong, protagonist of a child. You're
not going to get it. Right now what we're celebrating is feminizing men.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So how do we undo that, especially when what is happening, even the cartoons that they're watching?
By showing them the dysfunction. You celebrate their masculinity. You give them opportunities to step into their masculinity at the same time as explaining the profound illness of the society that they live in right now. It's not a problem to explain to our sons that they're coming into a world, it's the opposite of gaslighting, that they're coming into a world where there's such a backlash because of thousands of years worth of dynamics between men and women, where men right now are not really in favor. They already feel it. So then what should I make that mean, right? What should I make that mean for my son? What should I tell him about that? For me, I'm sitting down with him and I'm explaining to him, what masculine traits are, and celebrating him for those. Mm-hmm. Explaining that with any trait, whether it's masculine or feminine, it can go into, essentially shadow, or it can go into this light form. So let's say, a man is a real initiating energy. They tend to be more in the action orientation, right? They're the ones who like to step into a position and exert power, right? And all of those things are profoundly powerful traits. To the negative side of that, if we start to let go of our care for others, then that trait falls into things like tyranny. So what's the problem? Is the problem power? No, the problem's not power. Problem is the inability to take others as a part of the self. I'm telling you right now that men would have no issues whatsoever from women if what they had done exerting their power across this universe was to take women as a part of themselves so that they considered their best interests and acted in their best interests. You would not see any of the society you see today if that had happened. But it didn't. It just so. But I mean, I want people to understand that up until this point, we haven't really seen in alignment masculinity. That's what people don't get. They're like, we've seen enough of masculinity. This time has come for femininity. I'm like, no, 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 no. Back up. We have never seen feminine in its power, and we have never seen masculine in its power. That has not happened yet. Both have been in the shadow. You know, for femininity, it's like, you know, weakness and manipulation, right? And for men, it's like tyranny and you know, greed and things like this. We're just seeing the shadow expressions of both genders. So what I'm trying to do with my son is to enroll him in the picture I just gave you.
Yeah.
That as people, we are coming out of the dark ages more and more and more each generation. And as we come out of the dark ages, we have to figure out what that positive expression of our, you know, specific energies are. And I have to tell you, it's been pretty impressive because recently, since my son has started to go into this puberty phase, he started to initiate containment without me even really directly teaching him how to do it. All of the women in our group have been noticing it, and it's just like overnight, you know? And I'm loving it. I've had real serious conversations with the rest of the women in our social group where I'm like, if he does this, say yes.
Oh my goodness. It's crazy how fast it goes. And I never used to, when people used to tell me that it's going to go by so fast. And I'm like,
it's terrifying. This creature that came out of my body is now taller than me. I'm like,
it's insane. Okay. Well, so let's get into motherhood because I mean, as we're obviously talking about it, what is it that and I came across this, you know, this post of yours around, you know, and it was, you know, the number one secret to being a good mother. I don't know if you remember that.
What did I say that day?
Well, it was something along the lines of, you know, not committing emotional suicide.
Okay, yeah.
But what did you mean by that?
What I meant by that is that, you know, we've been talking about women coming out of these detrimental patterns, and there is definitely a pattern of self-sacrifice with mothers who have stepped into motherhood. Now, I know that I'm treading on thin ice here because women are in so much pain about their role as mothers and about what's expected of them and about, you know, all kinds of things. But saying that I understand that and treading out on that thin ice, one of the worst things you can ever do for your children is to give yourself up. Because it's a lie and a myth that you even can. Anybody who grew up underneath a self-sacrificing mother will tell you the hell of that condition. It's that you grew up with somebody who was resentful. You grew up with somebody who dreamed of something else and was, you know, essentially coping with her life. And because of that, even though she may have been there all day, every day doing things, it's that feeling of somebody cooking for you when they don't really want to be cooking for you, or like, you know, driving you to your soccer matches when they're dreaming of a life they could have had. And so many women cope with that condition of self-sacrifice by committing emotional suicide, which is to just, they turn themselves off. They pull their navigation system off of their own North Star. They don't do things which fill up their own energy centers. And so it's like they're perpetually giving, yet they have nothing to give. And it's a state of walking death is what it is. So then all of a sudden, because they base their entire life around their children and their children's needs and where they needed to be driven to and blah, 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 it's like the children reach a phase where they're going off into society as adults and mom doesn't know what to do. Oh my gosh, who am I? Right. I don't even know who I am anymore. I don't even know what my life is about anymore. I don't even know what I like. My entire existence has revolved around these children. And not only that, we have taught the little kids in the family, most especially the girls, we have taught them to do the very same thing. So it's just rinse, repeat, you know?
And this is how we're passing on our generational legacies and our traumas.
Yep.
Yeah, and I love that you are just breaking this down for us because it is probably one of the things that we hear about the most in our community is the mom guilt, is
Oh.
to, go after your dreams, but then at the expense of what?
Yeah.
And then, then if you're sacrificing yourself, then you have the resentment with your partner. How to navigate that?
What we need as people, both men and women, is not possible within the context of the structure of society that we've created. What I mean by that is that it's only when we start moving back towards the concept of very strong community and further than that tribe that we're going to be able to answer these questions. Because right now, when women think about, going and making their life more about themselves, the question is, where do the kids go? This would not be a problem if we were living in a tribal setting. The children naturally who grow up in tribe, they have the perception that they have multiple parents. So they're like running from this caregiver to that caregiver, and they feel very nourished and resourced, and so do the parents. Right now, I mean, people want me to have a different answer, but I literally can't do that. I can't give you a different answer. We need to be 10 times more resourced in order to make this work. Why? Because when a mom goes, you know what, I'm going to make my life much more about me and what I need and want, so that when I'm with you kids, I have me to give you, right? The question is, what happens with the child's needs during that time? We shouldn't be putting the pressure on the kids to allow space for us. That's where this starts to get really, really dark. What should be happening, and what we need to make happen in whatever creative way we can, is to create a situation where when we're not the ones with the kids, they're with somebody else. And when they're not the ones with the kids, they're with somebody else. And I'm not talking transient babysitters that we pay to watch them. I'm talking cherished people who are a fundamental element of their life across years.
That you're doing life with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting because coming from, my Asian backgrounds, Filipino and Indian, and of course my husband is from India. We were just back in India for a very long stretch of time, for about 3 weeks. And we saw, and he, grew up in it's called a joint family with like 23 members of the family. And so, and it's very customary for even a lot of my cousins, they just grew up in that way. So the aunts are taking care of all the kids, and one of the moms is making dinner for everybody, and the other one is maybe working, and, and they're just taking turns doing the thing. And it was never an issue.
Yep.
And so, but
that is 1,000 times more healthy. See, right now what we
Yeah.
can do is we can dissect and generalize about every culture, right? You've got enmeshment patterns in Asia that are really, really unhealthy. However, what they have managed to adhere to is a much more healthy template for how we are supposed to thrive in group. So it's like, what we're meant to be doing is essentially taking the best of each culture. What you're watching within those types of societies is something which humans desperately need regardless of where they are. And right now, it's the white culture, honestly, that's the most out of alignment with this one.